Last week's lore breaking episode 3 of The Acolyte pissed off a lot of people. And here I am talking about episode 4 because I guess I'm a glutton for punishment. Look, I did my review and several videos during the week about what's going on with Star Wars and the problems. With episode 4, I guess, and keep in mind, I actually missed watching this when it first aired. I took a nap and my alarm didn't go off. And so I wound up watching it like early in the morning. And when I woke up, I actually thought to myself, should I even bother? But I saw the episode was only about 35 or so minutes. So I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. So this episode picks up where episode 2 left off, with episode 3 being an episode that takes place 15 or 16 years before the first 2 episodes with backstory. This episode picks up where we left off. Basically, everyone's trying to find the Wookiee Jedi. Osha and the Jedi are trying to find him because they know that he is the next target on May's list to take out. And her and Kimir the smuggler are trying to find this Jedi. This is all part of this, I guess, these tests that this dark warrior, this ancient enemy or whatever you want to call it, is putting May through. And now that I think about it, the identity of who this warrior is, I think, is part of the reason as to why I'm still watching. That aspect of the show is still interesting to me. And yes, I could probably stop watching for the next few weeks and then just look it up. And maybe I will. I haven't decided yet. But that's what I think is most interesting, because unless they're going to break the lore again and reveal that there's a Sith Lord around 100 years before the mysterious arrival of Palpatine and Darth Maul, when they showed themselves to the Jedi, it could end up being something totally different. In fact, in the episode, they even talk about like a splinter order, like another Jedi that started his own thing. They're not even considering anything Sith-wise. Now, my guess, and I could be wrong, we're only 4 weeks in, but my guess, and this is what I was thinking in the past few weeks, is that if this person does turn out to be an actual member of the Sith, is an actual Sith Lord, a member of the Sith Order, then they're probably going to have a thing where the Jedi cover it up, which the ones that are in this show, like Saul and them. And they kind of already hinted at this, because there was a conversation about informing the Jedi High Council about this entire situation. And they were basically telling each other, no, let's resolve all this on our own. Because I guess they don't consider May to be that serious of a threat to where the entire order has to get involved, which honestly, that part makes sense. I do want to, real quick, before we get into like my thoughts on this episode, Lee Jung Jae as Saul, God bless him. This guy came to this show and had to learn English. He still has an accent, but he's doing a great job. And he really is the guy who I can tell always wanted to be in Star Wars and really is trying to play a good Jedi Master. But, man, talk about, like, bad luck. You understand? Like, talk about a gift and a curse. He gets to be in Star Wars, but he's in the show that's the most criticized of anything in a long time. Also, I haven't seen anybody, at least I haven't talked to anybody who actually has an issue with his performance. I think he's fine. He's one of the bright spots in the show. There's a part in this show, might as well address the elephant in the room. I haven't watched anyone's reviews on this, so I'm just assuming, but there's a part in the show where Osha talks to this alien, and then it's like one of those CGI, like, puppets that the prequel, not puppets, but one of those CGI characters that are supposed to be cartoony that the prequels kind of brought into the world. He's not in the prequels, but I mean that style of character. You know what I mean? And she's like, who is he or they? And I think people are going to look at this and say, well, they're putting pronouns in Star Wars now. And yes, there probably is truth to the whole pronouns thing. However, I will say this. If we're talking about an alien species, something that does not look humanoid, at that point, I mean, you can always correct yourself, but at that point, OSHA may not have actually known the gender. So I don't think that's that crazy. I don't see that being that insane or that, out of pocket. I really don't. It gets weird when you have, for example, let's say Yoda appears and they refer to Yoda as a they when he's always been referred to as a he. That's when I think there's cause for alarm to at least say, okay, what are they doing now with Yoda? Are they changing the lore of what his species is? Then, I understand. I mean, it makes perfect sense. But this really didn't bother me. Also, this episode was a lot less boring than the previous one. My main issue with episode 3 is how boring it was. They have this adventure, I guess you can call it that, where they're in the forest and they have these like big slugs, and we actually see a little bit of lightsaber stuff, and that stuff was all fine. Like it's not super exciting. It's like a way more boring version of like that scene in Phantom Menace where Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan first meet Jar Jar in the forest. It's kind of like that, except this is having more like Dagobah vibes with the swamp and everything and the creatures. That was fine. They could have done more with it. They could have made it into a full-out action sequence. But like I said before, I genuinely wonder where some of the budget went for this show, because there are things about it that just don't look right. Now, one of the things that genuinely surprised me halfway through the episode is when May essentially turns on Kimir. And the whole episode's being built up at the fact that, like, May has a soft spot for Osha and vice versa. And, of course, they're twins. And they both kind of, have that soft spot. Osha, meanwhile, is trying to not get involved. She doesn't want to have to be the one to hurt May. To the point where she even, at one point, has a conversation with Yord to basically handle it for her. Yord is an annoying character still. I don't like this guy. I don't know if it's the actor or the character. It's just he gives me like these pompous vibes that just scream like obnoxious prequel Jedi. Maybe that was the point. Maybe that's good casting. You know what I mean? I don't know. But yeah, halfway through, May decides that she wants to turn herself into the Jedi. And so she kind of turns her back on Kimir while still protecting him. And we find out that Kimir does have a relationship with the Dark Master, and that he's never seen his face either. So this mysterious enemy's face has still not been shown. But yeah, Kimir is sort of shocked, and he's worried that now May's going to become his target. But May wants to turn herself into the Jedi because I guess seeing Osha again changed everything. But she's still a murderer. So very strange decision to make at this point in the story. It was unexpected, but did it make sense? That's the question. It seems like Osha's Jedi powers are getting reawakened again because for whatever reason she can now sense things again. It's almost like the show's building to her eventually rejoining the Order. I don't know if it matters, honestly. The big climax at the end is they make it to this hut, this little hut in the forest. This is where the Jedi Wookiee is supposed to be. May is inside, and the Jedi are outside, and they're calling her to come out. But suddenly, they tease it. She's like, "Oh my God, he's here!" And they turn over, and that dark warrior, the mysterious leader of the master, I guess, of May, is behind the Jedi. They turn around and confront him. That was a cool little entrance. I will say the way the camera work was, how he's like going into the frame, I thought that was pretty well done. Kind of like a horror movie. I thought that shot was well done. You got to give him credit for that. So he ignites the red lightsaber. All the other Jedi, like 10 of them, light their lightsabers. They go to lunge at him. He uses the Force to move her, to basically lunge her out of the way with the Force. And then as all the Jedi come towards him, he pushes all of them back, knocks them on their ass, and that's the cliffhanger. So this one dude is pretty damn strong to be able to push back all those Jedi, including some of them being masters. Or is it another situation where they're going to make the Jedi look even more dumb by having this one guy destroy them? I always, as a kid, wanted to see the Jedi have I wanted to see the Jedi's adventures. I wanted to see the Jedi like at the prime of their lives, you know, at the prime of the Jedi, which we see a little bit of it in the prequels and a lot more in Clone Wars. But I always wanted to see like the adventures of the Jedi with the different enemies they'd have to face. And the High Republic saga, I thought when it was first announced, I was excited. I was like, okay, we get to see some cool stuff here. But it turned out to just be boring and not really what I wanted. Well, this is still not quite what I wanted. This episode was better than episode 3, significantly. It wasn't anywhere near as boring. I think the shorter the episodes, the better. And let's see. Let's see where this story's going. Let's see. But ultimately, I don't even know if I'm going to see because my enthusiasm for this show is just not very high. And although I am curious about some things, I'm still not really in. Like, I'm not really, like, super into this show like The Mandalorian's first couple of seasons were, or even some aspects of the Obi-Wan show. Obi-Wan show had a lot of problems, but there were a couple of episodes that I really, especially episode 5, that I really dug. This show, again, it's more about curiosity than anything else. It's just not lighting my world on fire, and clearly other Star Wars fans probably feel the same way. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, and should I drop the show? What do you think? Would you, or have you already? I'm curious. I will